What's up, guys? Welcome to Nolan Talks. There's been some pretty crazy stuff that's gone on these past few days for LSU. Something kind of unrelated to them is breaking news about 10 minutes ago. Tom Herman, the University of Texas head coach, has just been fired. And that's pretty surprising. I mean, not necessarily surprising. We all thought it was going to happen soon. We all probably thought it was going to happen a lot earlier than it did. It's a little weird that they announced it so late. I mean, I think they probably did it so late is because they found their replacement. They found Tom's replacement in Steve Sarkisian, the Alabama Offensive Coordinator. I don't know how. I think it's interesting how Steve Sark landed that job, but that's neither here nor there. I don't really know too much about that situation. But, yeah, Tom Herman is out at Texas, and I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on on the Tiger droppings regarding Tom Herman, coming to LSU, being the offensive coordinator. Would people like that? Remember back in 2016 when he was reportedly going to take the job at LSU as the head football coach? There was a contract dispute, so that didn't really work out. He wanted more money, and LSU wasn't willing to pay him that. So we got Coach O, and then obviously 5 years later, the rest is LSU was right in that decision in hiring Coach O. Texas definitely wasn't a good hire for Texas with Tom Herman, but things work out, for LSU in the positive way. As far as him at Texas, his number one issue was, obviously recruiting. He was a pretty solid recruiter. He recruited at a good level at Texas. Obviously not. Texas Longhorns are the number one school in Texas, supposedly, but schools like Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, even they'd go into Texas and then take those top recruits, Oklahoma as well. And Tom Herman just always struggled, getting those Texas recruits to stay at home. Right now, the number one offensive tackle in Texas is committed to Alabama, and you look down the list at 24/7 Sports, and you can just see just all these players committed to schools other than Texas, from the state of Texas, So, at the University of Texas, you have to be able to recruit, at the high level. You got to keep all those in-state recruits in state, and so they go to University of Texas. But Tom Herman kind of struggled with that. He definitely did a lot better job than Charlie Strong, and then the coach performed, the older guy, I can't think of his name right now, Mac, something like that. I can't think of his name right now. The North Carolina coach now. He was there for a while. He won the Natty, but you got to keep those recruits in state, and, they just kind of struggled with that. But as far as him as the offensive coordinator position for LSU, I think this is some guy we should definitely look at. He's gonna be getting paid a lot of money from his buyout from the University of Texas, so I know LSU can kind of maybe not pay him as much, to coach the offense for us. He was a great offensive coordinator when he was at Ohio State. He's the reason why they won the national championship with the third-string quarterback. They were just plugging and playing at Ohio State with their quarterbacks. He would just do such a good job as far as getting everyone involved and getting the scheme set up to where the quarterback had some easy throws, wouldn't have to think too much about it. And I think that's great as an offensive coordinator. Getting your quarterback in those easy positions to, make plays and get the ball out of their hands quickly, that's awesome. That's what you want. Let's be honest. Then he got hired at the University of Houston, and his first year he went 13-1. They beat Florida State in that Peach Bowl. They were great. They almost made the college football playoff. And I remember he got Ed Oliver, who was that 5-star recruit out of Houston area. I remember LSU was looking at him too, but Houston ended up pulling away and landing him. But this guy, he can coach offense, that's for sure. His one flaw at Texas, which is a huge flaw, which I totally understand, is at Texas he never really developed a quarterback. He never really brought in those high star recruited quarterbacks, and that's not good at the University of Texas. His best quarterback is Sam Ehlinger, and we all know Sam Ehlinger. He's a better runner than he's a passer. Let's be honest. He can sling the ball a little bit, but he ain't gonna be. He probably going to go on undrafted as far as the NFL when the NFL calls. He's not going to be a a high draft pick. If he is, he'll probably be like a 7th round pick. Just a guy who's a camp guy. But I don't think he did a great job as far as developing these recruits. And that's something that's kind of an issue. But as far as calling offensive plays, I think that he's some guy we should definitely look at. He's probably going to be a guy who's looking for another head coaching job, let's be honest. So I don't think he'd be a long-term replacement, but he's definitely some guy I think I would love to have Coach O interview him. He's a big name, and I think that's awesome. People are like, oh, just because he's a big name doesn't mean he can. Obviously, I get that, but this guy can coach offense. He can get quarterbacks, put them in good positions. His one thing is going to be, can he develop a quarterback, which is what you want in a coach. But I say LSU should give him an interview. I think we should look at him. I don't know if he's our top priority, but I think he's some guy LSU should most definitely bring in for an interview and talk to him and see what he can bring to LSU's offense. In other news, 3 guys announced yesterday that they're going to be returning to LSU. It was Neil Farrell, Ali Gay, and Chasen Hines. They all announced it via Twitter, all saying, run it back, we're coming back. And I think this is awesome news. We got 2 guys in our defensive line coming back. I think we're going to get a few more guys. I think Andre Anthony's going to return, but we'll have to see about that. Also, Racey McMath is declared for the NFL draft, as well as Torrey Carter. Racey McMath, Torrey Carter, I don't really know. Racey McMath, I don't think he played in the last 4 games of the season. I don't really know why he declared. I know he was getting some hype going into the preseason, but I don't really think he did much for this team this season. He definitely should have stayed another year, played another full season. He definitely would be probably at best maybe a 2nd round pick, honestly. Well, I shouldn't say at best, because you could honestly always go into a 1st round pick, but I think he should have returned for another year. And as far as Torrey Carter goes, he was a guy, we recruited him. He was going to play that fullback position back when we were, lining up under center and whatnot. But as our scheme kind of changed, his kind of position kind of wasn't really relevant anymore. We tried using him as the H-back, but then again, we get guys like Eric Gilbert and Cole Taylor, and he just kind of fell down the depth chart. Just never really fit with us. I totally see it. I thought he'd probably transfer before he declared for the NFL draft. Hopefully he's an undrafted free agent guy who, a team that runs the ball out can put him in at the fullback position. But as far as it goes for hurting this LSU football team, I don't really think it hurts us that much. It's another player we're losing, which, he's a special teams guy, so it kind of hurts a little bit. But, as far as on the field offensively, I don't think it's a big impact on us. I totally wish we could have retained, Race McMath and Torrey Carter, but, they wanted to go test the waters in the NFL, and we wish them nothing but the best. But, returning 2 guys like Neil Farrell and Ali Gay on that defensive line, that's going to be filthy next year. Neil Farrell, if he just gets in some shape, loses a little bit of weight, and Ali Gay continues to get stronger in that weight room, I think they could be potentially all SEC type defensive linemen. Chasen Hines and Liam Shanahan, those 2 guys are returning on the offensive line. So far, obviously, there's going to be a few more announcements before, I think it's January 14th is the last day to decide if you're returning or going to the NFL. Those 2 guys continue to stay in that weight room, get in better shape, get faster, continue to work on that technique. Those guys can be great players. And, you look at teams like Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama. All those guys, offensive linemen, were... you watched the games yesterday. Obviously, Notre Dame got smoked and whatnot, but those offensive linemen were moving people, and I think that's a big thing that I was actually thinking about a lot as far as offensive linemen. When they're seniors and stuff, they've been in that weight program for 4 years, and they're going to be they're a lot stronger. They're going to be their body's going to develop a lot better. So as far as going against defensive linemen, they can move people around and. These guys got to return to LSU and continue to get them in that weight room. It's going to be that's going to be the key for LSU going forward. Can we retain these defensive and offensive linemen? Can they continue to get stronger? Because more experience. It's just great for an offensive and defensive line. You look at the teams in the college football playoff; they're all guys who have experience on their lines, and They're all strong, big, experienced, and that's what you need. And I think that these guys returning are just a stepping stone. We got that Tristan Lee is going to be making his announcement today at around 2:00, so we got a few more hours, and I don't know where he's going. I'm seeing a lot of Oklahoma. I'm still optimistic that he comes to LSU. I think that he'll start right away for us, honestly. But we'll see. And, I'm sure in the next few days, maybe even today, we'll get some more news on other players, if they're returning or testing the NFL waters. I think we're going to lose, Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall. Those are the obvious two. But as far as anyone else goes, I think the door's still open. I think Coach O would love to have all these guys back. I think these guys would continue to, get better and improve their draft stock. Jacoby Stevens is leaving. But, the rest of these other guys definitely should return. It'd be a bad decision if they didn't return, honestly. But we'll just have to see. We don't know everyone's personal life at home. But, we'll see, obviously. I know you guys watched those college football playoffs last night. Man, Notre Dame got smoked again by Alabama. Alabama looks filthy. It still breaks my heart seeing guys like Devontae Smith out of Louisiana, make plays. He's probably going to win the Heisman, but that is neither here nor there. Can't really hate on that. It is what it is, honestly. I don't want to say too much about it because it kind of hurts, but wish him nothing but the best. Ohio State smoked Dabo Swinney, smoked Clemson. Trevor Lawrence kind of didn't really show up. His career, he's 0-2 in the Superdome. His only 2 losses are against Ohio State and LSU. I kind of feel bad for the guy because I did really like him. He's one of my favorite players in college football this past year. I wish him nothing but the best in the NFL. And, man, I'm excited for this national championship, Ohio State versus Alabama, man. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be two of the blue blood matchup. This is about time we get this matchup, man. These two programs have been the top 2 programs, in the past 10 years, 10, 15 years. And, man, it's going to be exciting to see how these guys they've only played each other once, and that was the 2014 Sugar Bowl, and that game was amazing. I remember watching that at my old house when I was in high school, and that game was literally amazing. So hopefully it's another great game in store for us. Hopefully Justin Fields can get the dub. I hate Alabama so much. I will be rooting for Ohio State in this game. I'm not really a big Ohio State fan, but it's a lesser of two evils, as some people might say. And hopefully Ohio State gets that dub. So, yeah. But that's kind of the only thing I got for you guys today. Just some news this past week. Hope you guys had a good New Year. Just trying to, talk to you guys about some things that have been happening in college football world, maybe affecting LSU a little bit. So hope you guys are all doing well, staying safe, and go Tigers.